Have you ever asked yourself, why do I always overreact? Why do I shut down when people get too close? Why do I feel like I don't belong anywhere? If so, you're not alone. Most of us have asked the same question at some point in our lives. What's wrong with me? But what if that's the wrong question? What if the key to healing, to understanding, to finally feeling whole starts with a new question? What happened to you? Welcome to SR Books Insights, your home for life-changing book wisdom, focused on healing, growth, and self-leadership. Today, we explore one of the most important conversations of our time between global icon Oprah Winfrey and trauma expert Dr. Bruce Perry. This book doesn't just share information. It opens your eyes to a new lens of compassion for yourself and for others. Before we begin, take a moment to follow SR Books Insights. Each episode gives you clarity, courage, and connection through the world's most impactful books. Let's start with what seems like a simple question. Why do we act the way we do? Dr. Bruce Perry explains that the brain is a historical organ. It holds your entire life story. Every sound, sight, emotion, and experience is stored in your nervous system, even if your mind doesn't consciously recall it. So when you find yourself yelling in frustration, or shutting down in silence, or freezing in fear, it may not be about now, it may be about then. Oprah shares how, over 25 years of interviewing people on her show, she noticed that the most difficult guests, the ones others called angry or cold, were often the ones who'd been hurt the most. They weren't broken, they were guarded. Their behavior wasn't dysfunction, it was protection. And just like that, we begin to shift our perspective. From judgment to curiosity. From blame to compassion. So let's go deeper into where these patterns begin. You see, the brain develops from the bottom up, starting in the womb, through infancy, and all the way into early childhood. This is when the brain is the most vulnerable, and also the most powerful. Everything you experience in your early years, touch, tone, love, neglect, shapes the way your brain wires itself. If you grew up with safety and love, your brain learns to trust. But if you grew up with fear, chaos, or abandonment, your brain learns to survive. Oprah shares her own childhood memories, sexual abuse, isolation, and being constantly told she was unworthy. But she also shares a turning point, a teacher who saw her. A woman who didn't just teach reading, but gave her hope. Dr. Perry emphasizes that one stable, caring adult can radically change a child's life path, even if everything else feels unstable. Who was your stabilizing force growing up? If you didn't have one, how can you become that for someone else? And remember, those childhood experiences don't just stay in the past, they live in the body. Let's talk about how trauma doesn't just live in your memories, it lives in your muscles, your breath, your voice, your silence. When you've been hurt, your body develops a default response to stress: fight, flight, freeze. And those reactions can be triggered, not just by danger, but by reminders of danger. Oprah recalls moments on her show where guests became physically stiff or mentally blank. Some couldn't speak. Some stared at the floor. Some smiled through obvious pain. And yet, what seemed like disconnection was actually overwhelm. Their bodies had entered survival mode. They weren't being distant. They were being protective. Dr. Perry explains, when your brain senses a threat, real or remembered, your body responds faster than your logic can catch up. This isn't weakness. It's biology. It's survival. The path to healing starts with regulation, calming the nervous system. And often that begins with simple tools: rhythmic breathing, gentle movement, stillness, nature, music. These aren't just wellness trends. They're medicine for trauma. And once you begin listening to your body, you may notice some of the pain you carry may not even be yours. Have you ever had a reaction that felt older than you? That's not imagination. That's intergenerational trauma. Passed not through words, but through silence, through stress, through inherited beliefs. Dr. Perry explains that trauma can be passed down from generation to generation, especially if it's never acknowledged or healed. You may be reacting to something your grandmother survived. You may be repeating a script your father never rewrote. Oprah reflects on people who live out their parents' unspoken fears, carrying the burden of stories that were never theirs to begin with. But the beautiful truth? You can stop the cycle. Ask yourself, what pain am I repeating? And what legacy do I want to leave behind? You don't need to fix everything on your own, because healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through connection. Let's talk about that next. You don't heal just because you read a book, or attend a workshop, or talk to yourself in the mirror. You heal through relationship. Dr. Perry explains that the human brain is relational. It learns safety through safe people. It's not one therapy session or one breakthrough moment. It's small, repetitive, consistent experiences of being seen, heard, and valued. Oprah shares that her greatest healing didn't come from experts. It came from presence. From Maya Angelou sitting across the table. From Gayle King staying by her side. From people who didn't try to fix her. They just stayed. Healing doesn't have to be grand. It can be a cup of tea with a friend, a walk, a hug, a shared silence. Each moment of connection is a signal to your nervous system. You're safe now. And once you feel safe with others, you begin to feel safe within yourself. That's when transformation happens. Here's the most empowering chapter of all. You are not just a victim of your story. You are its author. When you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What happened to me?" you shift from shame to power. Oprah recalls a personal turning point. She stopped chasing validation. She began listening to her own voice. That voice said, "I'm worthy. I've survived. I choose what comes next." You don't have to repeat the patterns. You don't have to live in the pain. You can write a new chapter. What story have you been unconsciously living? And what new story are you ready to write? Imagine a world where we stopped asking, "What's wrong with you?" and started asking, "What happened to you?" Imagine if teachers, bosses, partners, parents led with empathy, not judgment. That world is possible, but it begins with you. When you heal, you become the safe space others never had. When you ask the right questions, you open the door to real change. And your healing? It doesn't stop with you. It ripples into generations. So the next time you feel triggered, before you spiral into self-blame, pause. Ask, "What happened to me?" And then gently ask, "What do I need now?" That's the beginning of healing, of self-understanding, of peace. If this episode spoke to your soul, share it with someone who needs this. And follow SR Books Insights for more wisdom that heals, grows, and frees. This is What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry, narrated by SR Book Insights. This is more than mindset. It's a mission. Keep seeking, keep growing, keep giving, and together, let's make the world rich again.